G'day, it's Andre from Greenwood Solutions. We're on site today out in Clayton. We're doing a site inspection. The utilisation of this video is to get a better understanding of what goes into a site inspection, what to look out for, what things not to miss, and how you document it properly to take it back to your engineering team to get them to put it all together. I'm followed here today with my esteemed colleagues Joel and Kez. We're going to go up onto the roof and take a look. Cheers for watching, let's go. So when we're on site, the first thing that we do is we bring an approximated design, something that we've looked at through Nearmap or Google Street View, just to see what might work on the roof. We've got panel data sheet, we've got the actual layout of what the roof design would look like, plus an actual overall plan of what's around, so we can plan for where the bin might go, inverter location, where's the transformer. So that's all contained in our pre-site inspection booklet. Yeah, so we're here on the roof. We've anticipated a system size of around 50 kilowatt.
Yep.
It's always best impressions when you've got something on front of a computer, but when you're on site, you can see that some air cons have moved and things like that. Joel, what are the biggest things that you're looking at on a roof when you're doing a site inspection? What are the key things to look for when you're sizing up a solar system on a roof, and what are the things that you instantly go for and look at?
Yeah, well, sure. Certainly being our first time up here, first things first, safety. So we're looking for perimeter, what guardrail needs to go up. Do we have exposed skylights, which we do on the adjoining property? So keeping ourselves contained to a safe area, looking for safety aspects first. Second, so working back from that, we'd go on to constraints. What's going to prevent us from putting down the maximum size system, or what the client really wants or needs. There have been some changes on the roof. There were air conditioners that have moved, so we need to then re-measure, mark up, and just check that we can fit the most amount of panels for the customer.
Mm-hmm. So once we've established safety, which is critical, I'm also looking as a project manager, I'm looking at where we'd be putting safety guardrail. There's legislation and you'd never half bake safety. So we're always looking at how the most efficient and effective way to install the safety guardrail would be. So around this site, for all of the team to be working on it, there'd be an enclosed guardrail which would be fixed down to the purlin or to the parapet wall around our entire sort of working environment. Looking around as well for things that potentially could fall off. So if you had a drum of earth or something like that, if that's going to roll, is that going to go anywhere? Looking at site, I'd say we're okay. We would still put a kick plate at the bottom of the guardrail anyway as a preventative. But yeah, it's a live business site. People like working underneath us. We want to make sure that they're okay and safe as well. So we've established that. So once you've looked at your safety, what are you then sort of focusing on from a size measure up and the constraints of your purlins and your beams and stuff like that? What are you working with? Certainly
we'll be looking for spacing between major structural components, as in the purlins and the roof. So spacing between the screw lines, the roof profile itself. What equipment are we going to need to use on this trim, or in this case trim deck? So equipment, shading issues. What sort of shading are these air conditioners and different parts of plant and equipment are going to throw across the roof in different areas, so we'll want to keep out of that as far as the design. And then looking for, the other thing we will do as part of the process is do a dilapidation report, which would be to survey the area for existing damage before we start doing anything, just to protect ourselves. Also inform the customer and the client that there may be some existing damage up there that they might have an opportunity to fix before we start our installation. Let you get stuck into it and do a few measurements. Cheers. Too easy. We're talking about potentially putting a row of panels on this west side of the roof. They do fit, but the other thing to consider is there's also a HVAC entryway. So if we put panels right up against there, we're not going to make any friends in the HVAC industry. So we've got to be aware that that's where their entrance is. We take it into consideration and find a balance. So any roof's got its own natural obstructions or HVAC and stuff like that on the roof. Yep. You've measured this one up. What's the general rule of thumb of what you think on winter solstice being the shortest day of the year? Where would the shadow fall to? So where are you looking to not put your panels so they lose productivity? So just while we're measuring up, just for a rule of thumb, a very quick guide, without using any computer programs.
Yep, old school way.
Yeah, I'm just taking a measurement of the height of the obstruction or the piece of plant or whatever it might be. In this case it's 1250.
And if I multiply that by 2.1, I'll get the worst case shading in the middle of winter where it potentially would get to. It just gives me an idea on the roof where I'm measuring up.
Yep.
Am I going to fit 2 rows here? Am I going to fit 1? Am I prepared to do something as far as optimizers, or just for that area if I need to? There's ways to get around it, but just to be aware of those shading issues, and I can just visually see that.
Yep. It's an awesome little hack. So Joel and I are looking at where we can put the EWP. We don't want to inhibit any handicap spots or any thoroughfares. We also want to make attention that we don't want to touch any of the garden beds. So looking with Joel here, we can see that there's nice big windows. They're basically an area that we want to stop the EWP going. So what we're proposing is we're going to put the EWP directly here, going up this face of the wall and pushing out safely over the garden bed and onto the roof. There'll also be guardrails set up on the roof as well to make sure that we're getting out safely. And then where we would store all of our products is likely to the left of where I am, where we'd put the panels, some of the racking and all of the electrical cable. What are you looking for, Joel, specifically when you're looking at some of the main switchboards or distribution boards for installing solar?
Yeah, so we're going to be looking at the size of the transformer, the size of the sub-mains, we're going to size the cabling, how much room there is so what the existing equipment is in the main switchboards, how much room's in those switchboards, where we can mount our equipment, is there room for things like CTs, etc. So basically getting an idea of what's in those switchboards so that we can make our design work and make sure it's feasible. We don't want any surprises.
You talk about cable sizes. How does that determine what goes on the roof? Is there anything to do with volt drop, or how does that sort of work?
So as far as cable sizes, we just want to make sure that we've got the capability to put on the size system that we want to put on there, or as per our design. Obviously, if the sub-mains aren't up to the task, it might be a sub-mains upgrade. Things like that, so that needs to have the capability, the current carrying capacity on those cables needs to be equivalent to what we want to introduce as well.
Yep, cool. So what would happen if we're trying to put too much electrical load back into the switchboard will fundamentally say, no, we're not having a bar of this, you're putting too much grunt back into here and we just can't cope with it.
Well, your biggest issue there is going to have heat.
Yep.
And so those cables are not going to be able to tolerate what you're trying to put through it. And you'll then invariably damage equipment.
Yeah, and this is all found out in the grid app as well. So when you're doing a pre-approval, you put all of these details in on your SLD and on your grid pre-app through your distributor to stop any of that sort of stuff happening, because eventually what would happen is if you installed it not knowing any of this, you're fundamentally going to short circuit a board or trip the board, I would assume.
Yep, there's going to be all sorts of power related issues if you don't do your homework and your due diligence.
Yeah, so site inspections are massive. You're trying to get as much info as you can to take it back to your engineers. The engineers are usually working, feverishly on other projects, no matter what business it is. So it's the responsibility of Joel, the A grade, and anyone else on site to get as much intrinsic detail as possible, take that back and start forming a bit of a game plan so you can not only build what's going to go on the roof, but into the electrical infrastructure. And people like myself as project manager are looking at how we can safely integrate our team into site to make sure that everyone's working safely. None of the other people in the offices or surrounding delivery drivers are walking or anywhere near site, and that all contributes to a construction management plan, our swims, environmental management. So a normal full site inspection, regardless of size, if we say it's 50 kilowatt to 100, should take anywhere between 3 and 4 hours. So we're on an industrial site where there's high voltage board as well. High voltage infrastructure. We can't get access to this, obviously, it's not anywhere in our jurisdiction, but there's no actual signpostings on what the voltages are or what we're working with. So Joel would need to get some of the information off our switchboard, talk to the distributor, being United Energy, and say, what are we working with within your transformer to make sure that we integrate properly. So we're looking for a fundamental spot to put the inverter. So we obviously don't want to put an inverter or any electrical equipment facing north. It's going to get all of the sun for the majority of the day, causing everything to overheat or work harder than it needs to. So Joel and I are looking at potentially putting an inverter on the inside of this south wall. Out of the way, it's inside an area that has minimal activity going back and forth. If we were to put it on the outside of the wall, we'd have to look at bollards, there'd be trucks, it's their main thoroughfare for a warehouse.
So it's, yeah, not high on the hit list of spots to put it, but the inside of the wall, different story.
Let's go check it out.
That was a good two-way. That was fucking very nice. All right, so we've been on the roof. We've also been outside and had a look at some of the electrical infrastructure. One of the key components, obviously, is the inverter and where that's going to go. So we've looked around the building, knowing that it is a manned, staffed building where people are working 9 to 5 every day. Inverters are loud in the summer, not too loud, but they do emit the noise when the fans are going and stuff like that. So best practice, we've ascertained that in this garage sort of landing area might be an opportune spot for it. Looking at potentially putting inverters here, and then Joel and Kieran having a look at how you can easily put an inverter there, but how are you putting your cables and where are they going? So Joel, sort of just talk us through what, overall game planning ahead before we go back to engineering might be. What are you proposing?
So, as you've mentioned, the office environment's probably not the best place to have these machines running. This is a great storage location, garage area for the batteries. Obviously, we'd have to put fire sheeting behind the batteries and be in line with all the compliance issues there. But as far as cabling goes, it makes it fairly straightforward. We've got a void above us, a mezzanine floor, and a void above us towards basically underneath our array. So that's where our DC and our AC is going to shoot off towards the north from this. We're at the south end of the building, shoot off towards the north. The other benefit's nice and cool in here. All the equipment's going to be protected, it's out of the weather, it's nice and cool, and it's in a good spot. It's a good spot for it.
Yeah, there's no machinery or anything like that, so that's also something to think about when you're looking at where an inverter's going to go. Dust is not the friend of anything that's electrical, gets clogged in the fans and in the air cooling areas, so yeah, something to be aware of. So that concludes our initial site inspection. We've ascertained that we can comfortably fit about what we thought on the roof, subject to a structural integrity report. The roof is safe and sound, there's no major damage or areas that are cause for concern. We've got a cable run with a roof penetration sort of formulated with where the inverters will go. So we want to almost like a direct line above the roof, drop the cables down with some cable tray or conduits into those inverters and batteries. We then run a AC cable back to one of the distribution boards, which then theoretically energises the system. On face value, we take all of that via our fast field report that Joel and Kieran have documented, where it talks all about purl and thicknesses, screw lines, HVAC, any of that sort of stuff, as well as what walls are going to be housing the inverters. We take that back to our engineering team. They'll put it all together and make it work. And then from there, we basically get this thing on the road. Thanks for watching. See you later.